think. Yes. Okay, welcome back. Part 2 on the RT10. I got in touch with the owner of the plate and I had him send the amplifier board. So we are going to recap this board. There's only a couple caps on here. Put it together and test it, make sure it's good, and get it on its way back to him. So let's not waste any time and get into it. So here we go. Power supply is out. Obviously they sent me the power supply. We already worked on that. So we got to work on the amplifier board. And there's only a couple caps on here. There's not a whole lot. So since we did the whole power supply board, we might as well do this. This is not a high heat area, but it's still a heated area. So we're just going to go through and replace these. So let's get into it. This is an RT12, by the way. Gotta heat everything up and get going, but this should be pretty straightforward. Just get it finished up and get it back home. I'm sure he wants his amp back. Did a lovely job cleaning the thermal paste off, though. I'm mildly impressed with that. These babies look brand new. Never see that before. Like, I can rub my fingers on there and I'm not getting dirty. Either that or somebody at the factory forgot to put thermal paste on, but whatever the reason, it is beautifully clean. I wish every amp that I got looked like that. We'll put a little bit of paste back on there. Nothing crazy. And I'm baffled right now. I've never seen the ceramics that clean. Alright, we're at 640 right now, still heating up. We gotta get to 750 before I can start working. Alright, so they were just clean because there is a little bit of thermal goop on them. Still, very much appreciated. I can't say how much that's appreciated, so I don't get that crap all over my hands. And then transfer it to my coffee cup and my snacks and everything else, my dog. So, kudos, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Alright, so we can take this guy out. He's just going to be in the way. He does not want to come out. There we go. Shouldn't really pull on the wires like that, but they're usually not that hard to get out. So I like to check these resistors, make sure none of them are burnt. These ones all look very good. A little bit of glue on the adjustment pot for bias is fine. It's only touching the sides of the pot, it's not on the board. So I think we're just good to go for a recap, and we'll be back in business. Now, I don't know if these are forever caps. No, these are not forever caps. So I would replace them. The only reason I wouldn't replace the forevers is if I was, you know, just doing a home repair, like a quick repair. Those are fairly decent caps, so you can get away with not replacing those. But anything else, like, I don't even know what these are. IC. I don't know what that is. Illinois? Maybe these are Illinois. I doubt it, though, because this is made in China. Why would they use Illinois capacitors? Most likely international Chinese junk capacitors. 2.2. No, nothing against China or anything, but there's good Chinese and there's cheap Chinese, and these are cheap Chinese. I would say probably Japan caps are probably the best. Can't really go wrong with Panasonic or Nichicon. I think Nichicon are Chinese or Japanese, maybe not. Either way, good caps. These are non-polar, but I'm still kind of checking to see if there is an associated marking on there that would help me place them. But we're going to put Nichicons in there. That's just normally what I use. And we'll go from there. It is blowing and raining ice outside. I can hear it all the way downstairs. Craziness. Absolute craziness. It was 60 degrees a day ago, and now it's 17 degrees. Welcome to Ohio. The drive into work tomorrow is going to be insane. And if it's not insane, it's going to destroy my car with 1,000 pounds of salt. So either way, I lose. So there are some forever caps littered in there. But we're just going to replace them all. We already started, so we might as well do them all. And these are non-polars, 4.7 and a 2.2. Oh, that's a 35 volt. Did I grab 35 or 50? 35. So this board will be essentially brand new. And on the RT ones, like I said, I don't really mess with the digital processing board. I just really haven't ran into a lot of issues with those, and if I damage that board, it's a board I really can't fix. I would much rather send an amp back to somebody with that board uncapped, have them call me in 2 years and be like, hey, my amp's acting up, and I'd just be like, you know what, send it out to me and I'll fix it, you know, just for the cost of parts versus risking damaging that part of the board. So I don't know, some people might say I'm skimping, some people might say I'm being conservative. I'm just saying I'm getting your amplifier working, so cut me a break. I just, you know, I don't want to risk more damage to your system than is necessary. If schematics were available for that and I could see what's going on the inner layers of that board, then it wouldn't be an issue. I could break it all I want and then I could just, you know, patch it if I had to, but that is not the case. We'll go over that when I put it all together and test it out. But I played a little bit safe on that one. Just, you know, same thing like I do with the sub 10 and sub 12 preamp boards. You know, it's diminishing returns at that point. I mean, yeah, there's electrolytics on there, and yeah, I mean, eventually they're going to go bad, but sometimes you just gotta try your luck a little bit. And I haven't seen, you know, serious failures on that. If it was a known failure point, I definitely would do it, but there's no reason I can see to put the extra effort and parts and time into that. If it wasn't a local repair, it would be a little different. Like if it's something like I'm doing one for a guy in Canada, and that one's going to get a full recap just because the shipping is prohibitively expensive back and forth. So you got to take that into consideration too. But for the most part, you know, even recapping this is not necessary. But I have it out. It's only a couple of caps. You know, it's a little bit better quality of a job. And I have a reputation to maintain, so I don't want people starting to think I'm getting cheap. looking good. We got 2 more. And this amp will be back in business, I hope. Got the power supply lit up last time. There's a little weirdness on there. At first it didn't want to fire, but I don't know if that was something I was doing or something just needed to be reset, or that was a tough one. Hopefully it's not an intermittent problem. Intermittent problems are an absolute nightmare. And I really don't want to deal with intermittent problems. If some of you watched my 4-hour-long video on the sub 12, that was a intermittent problem. It ended up being a broken trace. Like those kind of repairs just suck because you're just destroying time looking for something, and it's really something that can't be found. You just have to like catch it on accident. And the only way to properly catch that is, you'd have to check every single trace on the board. Like if that break wasn't on the output that I was already playing with, that would have been I probably would have just gave up, to be honest. It's just not worth the time. I could find a broken amp on eBay, repair that, and send that back to the owner. So sometimes you gotta cut your losses and know when to throw one out. But sometimes I'm also stubborn and I don't like to give up, so a couple different ways that could go. Alright, 4.7, and this should be 35 volts non-polar. Just making sure we get all the right parts in there. And hopefully when I send this back, it won't spend the rest of its life in a powered on state. That's my biggest fear is, I spend the time to do a repair and then it goes into the living room and the switch stays on, and in 2 years' time the caps are already starting to get tired. Gotta turn your equipment off. Especially since I heard gas is going up to like $5 a gallon. We're all going to need that extra electricity to charge our cars. I hope it doesn't, but we will see. Alright. So yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable, just popping a few caps on this board before putting it back together and giving it a test. I just, I don't know. I wouldn't feel good about sending it back without going over it a little bit. You'll notice, you won't be able to see it. Very little thermal paste. You don't need to go nuts with this stuff. It's fine with just a little bit. Just put a little bit on there, smear it so it's nice and thin. I'm talking like paper thin layers. If thermal paste is squishing out of the edges, you've used way too much. This is supposed to fill a gap. And the gaps that we're filling are like microns. But a little bit of this does help keep these stuck to the plate when you're trying to put the power supply back in. So that's why I'm okay with squirting a little bit of it on there. And it does, with these ceramic pads, it does help transfer some of the heat. Ceramic's not a very good thermal conductor though. I still don't understand why Klipsch used that, but we'll save that for another day. That one's out of my pay grade. Alright, let's grab the power supply. I think I have it nearby. Yep. Grab the power supply and get this bad boy ready to rock. Now, the note in the box said that there were screws. I need screws and standoffs. I'm going to replace the standoffs. I do remember I cut those out. So give me a second to grab some new ones. Courtesy of Amazon. Why pay $1 a piece for a nylon standoff when you can get them on Amazon for, you know, like 100 of them for $1? Alright, I do want to clean this up just a little bit, just where we did our rework. There's a little bit of flux residues on there. I'm going to secure this to the board with a little trace repair. So I want to make sure it's extra clean just around that wire. I mean, it doesn't have to be. It ain't going to go anywhere because we post-wrapped it, but we'll do the a little above and beyond. Just on that area there, just to make it a little better. And the flux in the solder that I use is not a very active flux, so you don't really have to clean it. It's not gonna get all gnarly and start chewing away at the board. But in the critical areas, I do clean it off. Just it makes a better looking repair, really. That way when the next tech comes in here and takes a look at it, they're like, oh, that guy kind of knew what he was doing. He didn't leave the board a total disaster and mess. I still do need to silicone this. That's going to happen. I should invest in an ultrasonic cleaner, but I need a bigger workshop already. I'm running out of space for tools and everything. My design is, this was supposed to be just like a little closet hobby thing, and I'm already outgrowing it. My pool table / game room is going to be my new work area. And the pool table is gone, which kind of sucks, but I never really used it anyways. It's one of those things where when you're single, you use them, and then you get married and you don't touch it ever again. Alright, let's get a little heat on. Oop, don't spill the Coke, dummy. Let's get that out of the way, because if I spill this, I'm going to be screaming. I'm going to trade it up for coffee anyways. So I'm just going to heat the board just a little bit, drive off any residue. And there's two ways you can do this. Way number one is hit it with some super glue. Way number two is hit it with epoxy. Actually, there's three ways you can do it. Way number three is what I'm going to do. Because it's such a small repair in a small spot, I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of this UV trace repair or trace solder mask. I don't know what the heck you call this crap. I don't generally use this stuff because I really don't like it, but it has its place. And for something like this, this is perfect for it. The secret to this, which I've learned, is you just don't want to use too much. If you use too much, like I'm doing here, you're going to make more work for yourself. If you use just a little bit, you'll be alright. I used way too much. Got one viewer, but no comment. Comment is porno links. Goodbye. Delete. I don't want your crap on my channel. Go advertise your stuff somewhere else. Alright, so I'm going to try and thin this out just a little bit. I don't really want it to be like crazy thick. It is kind of self-leveling, which is nice, but just a little touch like that. Like I said, it's really not going nowhere. This is kind of overkill, but I don't know. I just feel like doing it, so I'm doing it. But I spread the, oh geez, you guys couldn't even see me putting it on there. Fix the camera. You just spread it on, and then you hit it with this infrared laser. And the infrared laser hardens it. It's like a UV curing epoxy. Kind of similar to what those new 3D printers use, those resin printers. So I'm just going to cook this under the light for a little bit and bore everybody while they watch me playing with a laser. It doesn't get like super hard, it kind of gets like waxy, like a waxy plastic. I would assume if I probably stayed on this thing for several minutes it would get pretty hard, but oh, it's faster than epoxy. I don't have to wait for it to cure or dry. I can just put this on there, hit it with the laser, and get it put back together. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't really need to go nuts with it. So I will make sure that this is good and cured, though. I actually bought this kit from the Rossman group. I guess that's what he uses on his laptop repairs when he does solder mask. And I'll give it like a 5 out of a 10. It works, it doesn't work as good as I would like it to. I would like it to be, a second with the laser and it's rock hard and cured. This is a little bit more messing around than I generally like to do. And it's pretty gummed up. Still a little soft in some areas, so I'm going to have to just keep hitting it with the light. I know this is like insanely boring and I apologize, but I gotta do this to cure it, so we just gotta sit and wait. It does get harder over time, I've noticed too. After it's like cured, it I don't know if like something evaporates out of it or what, but it does seem to get hard again. Just a few more seconds on there. I want to make sure that it's not gonna leak out or anything. Not that it matters. I mean, it's gonna be upside down on a plate. Nobody's ever gonna see it anyways. Good enough. So that I mean, it really blends in with the board. You can't even really see it. But that wire is covered up and it's secured in place, so not bad. Not the best, not the worst. Does what I need it to do. Little dab of thermal goop on each one of these. Just a drop. That's all you need. One little stinking drop. Even that's a little too much. It's going to squish out the sides. If memory serves me correct, I believe the plate slides under the heat sinks, or the thermal pads. So I'm going to slide these up a little bit. And then it drops down. Screw the plate on before you do your heat sinks. I'm going to check the box. He said the screws were included, so let's find those screws. Let's read the note here. It says base plate and screws, amplifier board, heat sinks, base plate and screws. I'm gonna double check, but I don't see any screws. I see bubble wrap, foam, and box. Check my other little box here. I got boxes and packing stuff everywhere. Alright, the plate screws, I believe, are not included. If they are not in the box. So I am going to donate 2 screws, and he'll have to source the rest of them when he puts it back together. I would assume that the screws are present with the rest of the screws that hold it in. So not a big deal. I have spares. I don't have a lot of spares, but I do have enough to hold the plate in. And you can use, these are M3s, I believe, so you could use PC screws if you got a bunch of those too. Let's see. Which I might, oh no, I got some screws. I was going to say I might have to go get my computer screws, but I got a couple in here. Alright, good enough. Courtesy of the graveyard. Alright. Really just the 2 in this corner are the most important, because that's what pulls the plate down. Holds it in place. So I hope you got the screws. If you don't have these screws, we'll have to figure something out. I'll most likely just send you some computer screws, because that's what I have the most of. I can't give you all my Klipsch screws, because then somebody's gonna call me and be like, "Oh, hey, I need a screw. You got anything?" And I will have to tell them no. So the board does have a, yeah, I gotta put one more in there. The board's got a little bit of flex, and I just don't like it, because I'm OCD. Let's see what this mess has. Another screw graveyard. Big screws, little screws. I don't even know what these are from. Probably need them for something. Too many projects. Alright, hold on. Do I have any more in the graveyard? No. Alright. You get 3 of my good screws. Consider yourself special. No discounts now. The reason that I want to put a 3rd one in there is because the plate is flexed off the base, and that's common. They do get a little bit of heat warp to them. Could be moisture warp, but if we get it secured in there, we won't have to worry about that. So I'll do the 3 brass ones, leave the 3 plastic ones out. and let them put their screws back in there. But the reason I want to keep the board flat is because I'm going to put these heat sinks on and clamp it. And if there's any curve to the board, you're going to put a stress in the board on this side, and you don't want to do that. It's not going to hurt nothing, you just don't want to do it. Alright, make sure our heat sinks are lined up. And then we will clamp them down. So this should be a quick part two. It's early tonight. Well, kind of early. I can't be staying up like crazy late though. I gotta get to work on time or early just because I got a lot going on right now. So the 2 a.m. videos are gonna have to be on the weekends only. Can thank the component shortages for that one. Just killing me, keeping me as busy as I can be. Alright, snug but not too tight. Remember, these are the clamps that can bend if you tighten them too much, and if that happens, you are out of luck. Just snug enough to hold the devices in place. Put a little bit of spring pressure on them. And that's all you need. Alright, CD plus is red. CD minus is black. I'm not going to worry about the liner neutral. We'll just take that off my plug. I didn't silicone this yet. We still got to silicone it. Let's get ready to test this guy. This should be a pretty straightforward quick fix. I'm going to put this away, suck some of the juice back in. We don't need a mess on here. I just throw the tips away after I use them. They're so cheap on Amazon. And I hate buying stuff on Amazon, but sometimes, you know, you get really good deals on stupid little consumable parts. So for certain things, you really just can't beat it, and you kind of have to give in, but for most other things, I try to avoid it, even though you can't always do that. Alright. Pretty painless so far tonight. I didn't expect this was going to be too much of a problem though, but I want to get it done and get it back to the owner because the waiting list is growing. So I want to keep chugging through these as good as I can. The hardest part is sending out the invoices and ordering the parts. Everything else is pretty good. So yeah, this is the crazy board that I don't really mess with. And you know, you do have some caps over here, some power supplies, but I unless I see a problem, I leave it alone. It's a 4-layer board, and I don't know where the traces go. So if I break one of these through holes and it connects to layer 2, you know, there's no easy way to fix that without having a schematic, and I don't have a schematic for this, so I leave it alone. It's not worth the risking the damage over. I've replaced a couple of these inductors before. I don't know why, but these things get broken. I have seen that, but otherwise I haven't really seen any issues on these. So I've recapped these boards before. I damaged one of these boards before, and after I damaged that board, I said, you know what, like, it's not worth it. And I had a really hard time finding a replacement for that guy. These things are just not readily available. Alright, so I need to get my screen. Turn off my soldering iron. These screens are universal. Any of the Klipsch digitals that use the screen that looks like this, it works on all of them, which is kind of nice. So RW10D, RW12D. You got to make sure you plug this thing in right too, though. If you break this connector here where this plug goes, you're screwed. I cannot get this connector. It is no longer made. I can get one similar, but it won't plug in right. There's a little like key on the side that lines up. So you know, line it up and make sure it's lined up with the key. Don't just ram it down in there and be like, okay, that's where it's supposed to go. Like, yeah, don't do that. I do not have those replacement parts. If you break the screen connector, you will have no screen. Alright, enough preaching. Make sure our power is off. It is. And we will connect our power up. Alright, if all went well, let's do silent speaker, because my wife is in bed. We'll do silent speaker with the silly scope. Let's see, let's get this hooked up. Whew, that wind is howling. I can't believe how hard the wind is blowing right now. Where can I put this? Where it's? Oh, I'm gonna put it off to the side, and I'll just move the camera. How's that? I gotta clean this desk up. Before I start the next one, I'm gonna get rid of some of this garbage. Put some things away. Speaker terminals are ridiculous to get to. They're way down in here. I don't know why they did that. Dumb idea. But, I mean, you can get to them, but you have to fight it. Alright, speakers are hooked up. Silent speaker. Let's power up our little scope. You can kind of see that. Here, let's scoot the plate over. Maryland, huh? Yeah, I mean, I'm probably 10, 15 miles away from Lake Erie, and we're getting probably 40-mile-an-hour gusts, and it's just raining ice. Like it was blowing the ice hard enough against the side of the house that the dog thought like somebody was outside. It was crazy. If I might not be able to go to work tomorrow, my car doors might be frozen shut. That'd be kind of cool. It's happened before. All right, let's switch on our power current limited first and see what we get. I'm still interested to see if the power supply was intermittent or if that was just a fluke. So we're going to find out right now. It came right up. So it must have just been a fluke. Oh boy. So this is why you don't put an input in there. It's going to be hard to see. But the volume is all the way up at 0 dB. And I know the camera washes out the backlight, but you got to turn that down. Keypad locked. They must have kids. So we're going to unlock it. We're going to turn it down to -32. And we're going to EQ flat, that's good where we put it. LFE mode, great. Movie mode, phase 0, let's normally do it. Save settings. So, sorry I just overwrote your volume, but I don't want to put a 4 ohm load at max volume in there, especially with a sine wave coming at 30 hertz. The system would have a meltdown. Alright, let's give it some sound. Line in. We have sound. There it is. I'm going to switch over to full current because my bulb is glowing. So we're probably drawing close to an amp. But since there's no smoke and everything's behaving properly, we'll crank it up and monitor it. So I'm giving it 30 hertz. The little cheapo scope is saying 30.5, so I haven't calibrated that, so it could be off a little bit. Close enough for what we're doing, but I'm looking at the waveform. I want to make sure that the waveform is really nice and clean, and obviously on a good scope. If I put this on the other scope, it's going to look much better, but this is the easiest way to just do a quick and dirty audio test without making a bunch of noise and pissing off my wife. So again, we're going into a 4 ohm load. It's sitting right next to me. I'm sure it'll start acting like a heater pretty soon. We can crank some volume up. But it's behaving good. I don't hear any like squeals or any weird noises coming from the power supply. That's another nice thing if you're testing without a speaker. So it allows you to listen to the circuits and see what's going on. Like sometimes you can get some noise somewhere, and maybe that means you missed a cap or you got something in wrong, or it's nice to be able to put it under a load and kind of torture it a little bit and see what it sounds like. Not what an audio sounds like, but the electronics sound like. And this is behaving very nicely. Now, if you are going to touch stuff in here, one thing at a time. One finger on the heatsink, see if it's hot. One finger on this heatsink, see if it's hot. You don't go poking around multiple places on there. You will get shocked or electrocuted. Don't do it. It's one hand, one piece of metal if you're going to touch it. And even then you shouldn't really do it, but I kind of know what I'm doing, so I'm just making sure that I'm not overloading the power supply, because I am running it into a 4 ohm load, and that does drive it pretty hard. But I mean, this thing's behaving beautifully. We'll crank it up a couple more. Turn my voltage down again. So there's still no distortion. The waveform still looks good. Again, this is probably the cheapest scope that you can get. I don't know what that weirdness was. I don't know if that was me or the scope. That's a bad wire. Or a bad input. The volume's working good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back down to 32. I'm going to power it off, and then I'm going to do an audio test and actually listen to it at low levels. So flip it off, wait for it to die out. Give it a second to discharge before I'm sticking my hands in there, and then we'll give it a listen. Yeah, these RT series subs, they're one of the better series that Klipsch made. I wish they made an analog version that didn't have all the digital controls on it, but I mean this power supply is very robust, and I mean they do produce a pretty nice sound. Um, it's just they suffer from the glue issue. You know, they put that glue on there and it just wrecks these boards. That and these yellow Carly caps. The ones that they use on the primary side of the supply are junk, and they just disintegrate and explode. So I think these are TDK. I don't know who makes these. Of course, I don't have it labeled on there. I think they're TDK. But I replaced them with good caps, and the problems seem to go away. All right, that's enough time to discharge. When everything's in circuit and you have the amplifier board hooked up, you know, you just leaving it on for a second, the actual amp will, you know, bleed off the secondary voltage, so it'll drain this cap. When this board is not hooked up, that's when it retains the voltage, and you have to actually manually discharge, or you could get a little zap. But I highly recommend you don't test with a speaker first. At least power on one time without anything hooked up to the terminals, because you will scare the hell out of yourself if this thing's on 0 dB and you give it an audio signal. It will be loud, and it will surprise you. Alright, here we go. We're just going to go full power back. Oop, something cooked. Something just nuked itself. I saw a little puff of something right over here. I hope it wasn't the bridge. Oh no, I hope it wasn't that little jumper wire. What the hell just happened? All I did was connect a speaker up. Let's try it again. See what it will go current limited this time. I gotta find out what that was though. There was definitely an arc. I saw a little arc. Something did not behave. Maybe that was the NTC. I can replace that if we have to. We did one of them. It looked like it came out of the bridge. That was weird. Let's go full power again. See if we can make it happen again. Of course not. Damn it, it sounds good too. What the heck was that little arc? Let me get a little light in there. Something definitely made a noise and a little spark though. So I'm checking the inrush limiters, because those are usually the culprits. Looking at the caps too, making sure I didn't screw anything up with the cap. I'm looking at the diode bridge. I don't see anything in there that looks burnt. I might, I don't know. That's a really tough one to get a spark like that and a little poof. I think I'm gonna replace both of the inrush limiters. It wouldn't be the bridge. If the bridge failed, you'd know the bridge failed. That would fail in pretty spectacular fashion without a fuse in line. It'd probably blow the breaker and end the stream. But I definitely saw a little arc somewhere right in this area here. It was just like a little poof. Could have been a little board short. I'm gonna go with the inrush though, so I'm gonna replace those, and we'll try again. But this is why we gotta test. We gotta validate that everything's working and there are no issues. I mean, it sucks we gotta take this thing back apart, but it's not going back until I know 100% that it's doing what it's supposed to. I'll probably pull out this varistor too and give that a good look. I mean, the heatsink is not shorted. I put the heatsink on the side instead of going up. I always do that. When it's going up, it's just too close to this heatsink here, and I don't like that. So I just lay it flat. Doesn't hurt nothing. I put the screw the other way too, so these caps can fit down in there nicely without getting pushed over to the side. Well, it's got to come out. Let's take it out. We're not sending it back like this. So much for a quick repair, right? I jinxed myself by saying it was oh yeah, it's going good tonight. We'll check the varistor. We'll check the two NTCs. I'm going to pull them out of circuit, measure them, give them a good inspection. Look at the board. I don't know what that was. Whatever it wasn't normal. We'll know right away when we get a look at the bottom of the board, though, if we see something's looks weird. Could be a MOSFET too, but I don't know. I really don't know. One of those tricky situations where you got an issue, you don't know what your issue is, but you know you got to find that issue and figure it out. I'm going to pull these devices just away from the heat sinks just a little bit. Just so I can get them out. I hope it's not the bridge. Well, I might have one bridge. I know I bought a couple of those a long time ago because I was having some issues. But these use a different bridge than the sub 10s and sub 12s, so even then I don't know if I'll have the right one. Gonna mess with the heat sinks a little bit, just lift them up just a tiny little bit so you can get the standoffs through. A better way to do this would be to take the screws off from the top, but I've done it this way so long, why change? Alright, let's reevaluate what happened to our poor power supply. Yeah, famous last words, right? I totally, screwed the pooch on that one. Alright, bottom of the board looks good. I don't see anything bad or burnt. Just cleaning off some residue on here. Making sure there's no tracking. That looks alright. I'll do a little recap though. When I first got this, these two resistors here, which are designed to drain these caps when you power off, were soldered together, which created a short, a direct short across the whole supply. So that was no good. That was the first problem. I don't know why that was done. I can't for the life of me figure that one out. Well, let's fire up the solder sucker and pull these things out. Bridge looks good. Maybe, just in case it's a loose solder joint, I'll retouch that up. Let's see if I have any of these. These are 4 ohm 8 amp NTCs. Yeah, I got some. So if we need to, we'll replace those. I don't have the varistor. I've never had to replace one of those ever. It's a weird issue. Well, I guess I can check the bridge really quick while I'm waiting for that to heat up. So we'll just make sure the caps are dead. Which they are, because the resistors should be doing their job and pulling those down. Let's see what we got. And I'm just doing an in-circuit check, diode check. I just want to see if, something's happening. I'm mostly looking for shorts. Just to see if there's any weirdness going on. There doesn't appear to be anything out of the norm with the bridge, so I'm getting about a 0.5 volt drop across there, so the bridge is fine. The only thing I can think of is the inrush. This guy right here is not behaving, and that would make sense because if this was shorted out and you went to plug this in, this guy's gonna take some heat. It should, clamp the current, but that doesn't mean that this would not be damaged. So we'll pull that out and I'll look for a little burn mark and see if that's what shot the little spark flying across there. I think at this point I'm just going to replace them, good or bad. I have the parts, so might as well just pop them in there, but I want to know why it did that. That's the interesting part. It's not a typical issue. Yeah, hey, no problem. I enjoy doing these videos. Like, this is fun for me. I got some more Klipsch coming up. I did a HRS 12, I think it was. I have at least 20 Super Juniors to go through, so I'm going to be doing a lot of videos coming up. So our NTC does, well, may be bad. My eyes can't see it, but this magnifying glass might. Yep, as I expected. So because I haven't been able to do this before, we're going to do it now so I can waste some time. I'm going to hook up the microscope and show you what you have to look for when you have a failed NTC. So give me a minute because I have to find my USB cable that I stashed down here somewhere. And that's going to take a minute because I have no clue where I put it. I was like, yeah, I'll get this hooked up so I can show people all this cool stuff, and then life happens and I never get to do any of it. But somewhere on this destroyed bench, I do have a USB extension cable. That's not it. It's a USB cable, but not the right one. Let's check in my drawer here. And, of course, because I want it and need it, it's not going to be anywhere to be found. I know I brought it down here, though. I specifically brought it down and put it somewhere, and I'm like, I need this in the basement. Of course. Here, let's see if I can just make it work. Make it reach. Do I have a USB port that is close enough? This thing might freak out. If it does, I apologize, because I'm just like plugging stuff in. Let's go to PC mode. Alright, let's see if the microscope works. Give me microscope. Nope. Give me overhead. Alright, that works. Give me a second. I gotta make this do my bidding. Let's see, this is, looks like this thing here. Okay. It's not going to give me a picture. Microscope. Turn on. Sorry, I'm clicking like 1,000 different things here. I just want to get this to work because it will show up a hell of a lot better than it would if I was trying to do it on my own, but it's not coming up. Configure. I'm not that good with this broadcasting thing anyways. I'm just trying to hobble my way through it. Let's see, overhead, microscope. Well, not today. Alright. Wasting time. This is going to be a little hard to see, but I'll do my best. So this is what you're looking for right there. That tiny little burn mark. It's the size of a pinhead, even smaller, but that is why I saw that little spark. There was a current rush in, and this guy did its job, clamping current, but it needs to be replaced. It'll still operate like that, but it needs to be replaced. Garbage. And that most likely was damaged by shorting these two resistors out. So, like I said, I don't know what the goal was when you know, whoever was working on this was working on it, but you know, having a piece of wire around here and soldered around that resistor, you can see where it goes. One side goes to the center of the two caps. The other side goes into the negative of the entire cap bank, and then the other side, which you can't see the trace, goes to this one. So between these two pins, which is the full cap voltage, so it was a direct short. a direct short across the caps. So whenever this thing was powered on, that inrush took a huge hit, which is most likely why it was destroyed. So we'll put a new one in. And these are, I think these are either Burns or Epicos, but they're 16 millimeter, 8 amp, 4 ohm. And they are a direct replacement for the SCK 48s. Or the DSP 104s are 10 ohm, 4 amp. That's a little bit different. I don't feel like heating up the iron, so I'm just using the solder sucker to pop this bad boy in there. So, alright, I think we're going to be back in business. I'll pull the other one out just to look at it. I want to make sure that it's not damaged. I mean, I have it out. I might as well just spend the extra minute to do it. That's this guy here. And this is one of the replacement ones, but I want to make sure it wasn't damaged. And I don't see anything on there that makes me question that it would be. So we're going to put him back in. The varistor, I'm just going to leave that alone because, like I said, I've never seen one of those go bad, so doesn't mean they can't, but until I see one go bad or find a reason to actually pull it out, I'm going to leave it in there. Because with my luck, I'll end up tearing a through wall out, getting that guy out of there, and then I'll be mad. And we already found, you know, the problem, so I don't think there's any need to really take it any further than that. Alright. So we have our replacement, both replacement and rush limiters. You know, the one looked good the first time around when we were playing with this, but that doesn't mean that it actually was. It could have been, you know, already damaged, and you know, I missed it, or it was stressed and gave up when we just powered it on. So either way, I think we're back in business. We're going to put this back in. We'll cycle the power a few times just to make sure that it's not going to get any more funky and, you know, do anything stupid. But I think we're in good shape. Got to get our sine wave back. And we got a nice nice sounding 30 hertz coming out of it. I like 30 hertz as a test. 30 and 100 are my two go-to test tones. I like 30 because I can keep the volume low enough to where it's not, you know, annoying everybody in the house, but I can still hear what's going on. And it's just an easy frequency for me to hear. Put our heat sinks back down to the plate there. I like to line them up right with the edge of the aluminum. Personal preference, not at all important. The plate is screwed down so we can get back to clamping and fire this thing back up. Hopefully there won't be any more sparks. I have seen the the inrush in here go bad. But that usually happens when the glue problem is really bad and you have traces burning. So that one, you know, it can go bad, but it generally doesn't. Usually when that goes bad, though, it takes out a lot of stuff with it. Alright, we're getting there. So I'd say as far as Klipsch amps go, this is probably my second favorite amp. My first favorite is the RSW 15. That thing is just insane. Probably one of the highest powered amps that they've made. And I guess I've never owned one of those, but from what I've heard from the people that do, those things are just absolute monsters. But I have used this amp in another speaker, and it's a good sounding amp. It really is. You know, the different amps can make different sounds in different boxes. And I like these. I think they put out a pretty good amount of power, clean sound, clean wave on the scope, which is even more important. They might not be the most power efficient, but they sound good. And that's really more important than energy consumption, in my opinion. Alright, let's try this again. And we're going to go right to full on. That way if it is going to surge and blow again, we'll catch it. And no blow, so I'll cycle it a few times. I want to get the output hooked up now. And then we'll see what happens. I don't think having the speaker hooked up really mattered. The volume level's low enough to where it shouldn't, but let's try and duplicate what we had before just in case. Just in case something weird's going on. Alright, let's fire it on again. I think it sounds good. I know you guys won't really be able to hear it. Good sine wave. I'll put it back up on the scope. Okay, you know, it sounds clean. That doesn't mean it looks clean, but it sounds clean. So I'm gonna go back to. Actually, I'm gonna check this again. I am noticing a small hum. I can't really tell if that's something that's in the room down here or if that's coming from the speaker. It doesn't sound like the speaker. Yeah, the only subs that I've heard that actually will really destroy these are the Sunfires, like the MK2 or the Signature. But I mean that's in a whole different world. I mean it's a lot more expensive, a lot more sub, but even the Super Junior, which is only it's either an 8 or a 9 inch. I think it's an 8 inch. But It puts out 120 dB out of an 8-inch sub. And the first time I ever tested one, I've mentioned this before, I was watching Looney Tunes, and Elmer Fudd shot his shotgun, and I thought somebody literally shot the shotgun right outside the door. Scared the hell out of me. It was so loud and so quick. So I'm listening to the sub, and there is a small little tinge of whine in there. I can't tell if it's... Yeah, it does. It's got a little bit of a whine to it. You know, I've noticed that before when I was testing some other stuff. So I'm starting to wonder if it's my power. I wonder if I can get it to show up on the scope, on the good scope. I'm gonna hook up speakers and I'm gonna look at that and see if I can figure out what the heck that little hissing sound is. If it's a 60 hertz sound, you guys won't be able to see this. Maybe I'll lift up the scope and show you, but I wanna make sure this is not something that's gonna be an issue. But there's a slight noise coming through, and it could be my power supplies and stuff that I have plugged in. So I'll start unplugging stuff to see if it goes away. But I don't want to send something back that's got some noise coming out of it. That's no good. It's not cap related, I know that, because we recapped the whole thing except for the input board, and I highly doubt it's the input board. But this thing has switching power supplies all over it too, so it could be, you know, self-induced. Alright, silent speakers hooked up. I'm firing up my scope. I want to see what's going on here. I need to rewind one of those voice coils. I have the coil here somewhere. Was on my desk for a long time. I think I just moved it to get it out of the way. Same problem though. The coil was rubbing and totally... that's the replacement. But I can't find a bobbin for it, so I'm going to have to unwind it and rewind it myself. That's why I haven't gotten to it yet. I have no interest in doing that right now. Our power's back on. I don't really see... I see a little noise on the scope, but I can't really tell what that's coming from. So I have the volume muted, and I'm getting 29.9 hertz on there. It's still a really good looking wave. Just checking parts on the board here, making sure, you know, sometimes when you touch certain things, it can freak out the signal a little bit, and you can kind of find if you have some anomaly somewhere. I can distort it real easily by playing around this op amp, which, you know, this is probably like the first gain stage, so that's, you know, you would expect that. But I'm you know, touching the leads of the caps on here. This is all you know, pretty low voltage, plus minus 15 volts. But I'm looking for distortion from the caps and seeing if it's something that is actually induced by a bad cap, or is it just me being like paranoid over nothing? I do have pretty sensitive ears though, especially when it comes to like monotone frequencies at a certain level. I can just hear it. I don't know why. Sine wave looks good. There's a still a little bit of riffle on the edge. I don't know if that's what I'm hearing. I'm going to look at the power supplies. Check the plus minus 30 or 15. Make sure those are clean. I'm just going to do them on the meter right now just to make sure they're within spec. So did I just read that right? It says I have negative 151 volts on there. That doesn't sound right. There's no way there's 150 volts going to this board. This board would be on fire right now. It's saying 151.4. And I was sticking my fingers down there in there. So this pin does something. Am I reading millivolts? Like, what the hell's going on here? This should all be low voltage. And these caps would be shooting themselves off the board. This is why I need schematics. Alright, there's 14.8. And we got 15.1. So they're pretty close. So I know this is a ground. So this fourth pin, that must be the audio signal, because I can clearly distort it just by checking it with the meter. Alright, that's showing 15 volts. It shows negative 160. That is, something is crazy on that. Nothing on this power supply. Well, I guess maybe that's unless they monitor the secondary voltage on there. But why would they put that right next to the audio line? I do not understand. I wish I had a schematic. I've never measured this before, so I don't know, you know, if that's right or wrong, but that seems like a lot of voltage going to this board. But I do have the plus and minus 15. Unless the micro is monitoring the required. Let's see what my bus voltage is. Let's see if I can get between CD plus and CD minus. If that's like fully maxed out, then we got an issue. We are on voltage. Alright, so yeah, we're only getting 11 volts coming out of our power supply, which is about right. And as I increase the volume, the voltage goes up. So we're tracking, so the tracking supply is working. I don't know why there is. It's got to be some kind of false signal that I'm reading with the multimeter. There's no way, because the maximum voltage I'm putting in is only, 12 volts. Unless there's something coming out of these pins here, which means like one of the regulators is wonky, but still it wouldn't be putting out that much voltage. So you got 14 there, 30 there, so 15.1, and I got 14.9, so that's close. This is my ground. Alright, let's check between these two pins here. 160.9 volts. 163. Something is not right. At least to my knowledge. I don't know why it would be putting that. Nothing can handle that type of voltage on this board. I don't even know where it would come from. I guess I can fire up my spare and see what that puts out. I didn't think it put out. Yeah, let's do that. Let's fire up the spare and see what I get out of that, because that's absurd. That's way too much voltage coming out of there. I should have an extension cable for this somewhere. I know I made one specialized for an RT series. So I can actually get in there and measure it without risking shorting out pins. Or do I have one? Here, I got a little short one. I think this has the right amount of pins on it. 160 volts is bananas. Alright, let's try it with nobody else hooked up and see what we got. 158.9. The only thing I could think that would be was monitoring this cap voltage. It doesn't seem right. Something does not seem right on that though. And I did notice, like I said, a small, very faint hum. Didn't sound like abnormal, but I could hear it, and that was enough to raise concerns. So we're going to fire this guy up and measure him, and if this says it's 158 volts, then it's normal, and then I never realized that, and I'm not going to be poking my fingers in there anymore. Until I find a schematic at least and figure out what the heck it is, but yeah, that should not be that high. I'm just going to throw any old bash board in there. Doesn't really matter for this. So we should still get 8 volts roughly on our output. I'm curious what we're going to get on these pins here. Okay, that's powered up. CD plus to CD minus, we have 7.3. Let's check our supplies. 1501. Minus 15. This one's got a little bit cleaner supply. What do we have between these two? So on this one I have 0.9, 0, 0, 9 volts there. I don't even know what I'm measuring, to be honest with you. I'm just measuring the pins. So I don't even have 1 volt between these last 2 pins on this board. On the other board I had 160. Thank God I didn't blow the input board on that. That would have been a really bad day. Get these links out of here. I don't want your crap in there. Alright, well. Shoot. Where did these last 2 pins go? The top pin comes along the edge of the board and goes to, looks like the thermal diode. So that's between thermal and the next pin. Number 2 goes into one of these like transistors. Where the heck would I be getting 160 volts from? That's like full secondary cap voltage. And we'll verify that right now because I'm going to fire it up and look at it. $159. So yeah, we're getting full cap voltage on those pins. Something else is weird. Or went weird. That's not the dashboard, I don't think. Second pin goes into one of the little transistors, and then I guess, yeah, it is related kind of to the dashboard. That tells me there's a problem on that board, potentially. Shorted something. But I'm getting the proper output voltage, so it is functioning, but something else is weird on there. Well, it's going to have to come out again, because I cannot... can't send it back like that. No frickin' way. We'll just check this one more time. Get my little homemade insulator here, just so I don't blow my board. And we're going to check one more time. So we got 7.5 volts there. Between these 2 pins I got negative 1.7. It's at about a volt. Let's see if it changes when I turn it on and off. Yeah, it slowly climbs up a little bit when I cycle power. 0.62 volts. Something is not right. Okay, well, we verified that something isn't right. Now we got to identify what it is. I totally did jinx myself earlier. Just going to do a discharge on these caps here so I don't zap myself. Well, I know I said I wasn't going to stay up late, but it doesn't look like I have a choice tonight. We got to solve this. And this is not going to get hooked into that amp board again until I verify that it is safe to do so. I am bamboozled that it's putting out that type of voltage on there and did not blow up. So this is one of those amps that's just got a bunch of little like random weird issues that, you know, you never see and are extremely hard to track. We're going to keep probing. film caps, possibly, if one failed in like a shorted fashion. Resistors, probably not. Because resistors, when they fail, the resistance goes up usually. They don't fail shorted. So let's see. Do I have my 8 volts? I have 6.7. It's a tad bit low, but I have output. So the dashboard is functioning to some extent. I still have a ton of voltage on these pins. It's not 160 anymore, but it's like 40 and counting down. Insanely weird issue. I don't know how, what, or why would cause that. What I could do is I could just short these two out and wait for something to pop. That'll tell me right away where it's at. I don't really want to do that. Let's see if the supply shut down. Nope, supply is still good. Very, very weird. I could load that down a little bit, but I don't, just put like a 1K resistor in there to kind of shut that down. I don't know what those pins are. Let me see. I might have a similar schematic to this. I gotta dig through my files here. I think I have one from a JBL that's kind of close. I'm gonna try and find that and see if I can find any similarities, or at least get the voltages off of that. So give me a second to try and find this file. It's buried on my server somewhere. Make sure my passwords aren't visible as I'm typing them in. I just redid all my networking stuff in my house too, so everything's just weird. Alright, let's see here. I need... It might have been an infinity. Let's see. Infinity IL120. That might be it. If I find it, I will share the circuit on the screen. It's just going to take me a minute to dig through which file it is. Let's see, that's 500 watt. That looks kind of right, maybe. What's the number on this board? It does use a 500 watt bash supply, which this is. Of course, they don't give you the part number. Why would they? Actually, I think this is the bigger brother to that. This might be the 1000 watt linear amplifier board. Well, the output board looks almost identical, so let's see what let's see if they have the schematic for that. I need the schematic for the linear board. They tell you how to adjust the bias. That's nice of them. Parts list. 5 volts, 6 volts, 1 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 volts, Alright, we do have a so this one is a little bit different. But it's close enough. So let's see, what's the easiest way to do this? I guess I can just drag this over. We'll do left screen, and I will drag and share. Make sure that's coming through. So this is what we're looking at. Ignore the values on here, because we have plus minus 15 volts. So you know, here's our plus, our ground, our minus, the audio signal, another ground, and then it shows we got a minus, looks like 16, a bulk monitor, which would be the large capacitor monitor, and current limit. So if that is monitoring the charge of the capacitor, then that voltage is correct. So I just want to verify on the power supply that bulk monitor actually is looking at the main cap voltage. So let's let me just dig through the schematic and try to verify that, and if that's what it is, then we should be okay. But that did freak me out, and it does have cap voltage on it if that's the case, which is mildly terrifying because I've handled that board before, and that's a lot of power to be holding in your hand. Alright, that's in. So I'm looking for the main filter caps and seeing where that signal comes from. Again, this is the power supply, so the bulk monitor should be coming off the cap somewhere. My dog's crying now. Come on, dog. Not now. Go lay down. Go lay down, dog. I'm not seeing that on there. I'm seeing primary negative, the power supplies for the voltages, DC positive, 16 volt offset, bulk monitor. Alright. So that does come right off a DC plus, and it's filtered through a transistor, and it is current limited through that transistor. I don't know exactly how. So I gotta check. Looks like Q506. I don't even know if I have a Q506 on this board, but we gotta check a transistor for shorts. It's gonna be one of these guys down in here. Make sure that's not shorted. That's the only place that would get DC voltage from. I'm going to look again on the schematic just to find out where the heck it is. And this is, yeah, this thing's totally laid out differently. Similar, but not exact. Let me see if I have another infinity schematic. I have to verify this. I can't just let this one go and not worry about it. I thought I had more of these. Klipsch. Where's my Infinity Archive manuals? Still looking for an updated service manual on that. Let's see. Harman Kardon also used this similar power supply, so that's something else to look through. Like I said, I just redid my network, so everything is just like scattered right now. Trying to get like ultra organized, and in the midst of being ultra organized, there's chaos. Alright, let me see if I have it locally. Downloads. Studio Series. 500 watt bash. Let's see what that holds. This is from an Infinity. Same thing, not the right one. Let's see here, there's some more. Schematics, KSW. That's a handmade one. Harman Kardon, there we go. Harman Kardon. Let's check that one. So Harman Kardon also used these same amps on some of theirs too, so you gotta go through and look at all of them. I apologize if you can hear my dog crying, but she's learned that by crying she can get her way in. I'm not feeding her right now, so she can just sit here and cry. So let's see, that's not this Harman Kardon. Next. It's nice that JBL and like all these other manufacturers release their schematics though, like, because it definitely helps when you're trying to fix a Klipsch that won't release theirs. But they all kind of use similar parts. Let's see, I got one more I think I can look up. I have not found it yet. I'm looking at an Infinity IL60. I don't think this... Oh, that's the even bigger brother of this. That's the dual transformer. Uses the same amplifier board though, the 650027, but the power supply is the way bigger cousin of it. I'll look at the schematic on that. If it's relevant, I'll share it. Sorry, this is like boring, but I gotta find this right one. So let's see. The IL60 and the IL20 use the smaller one that only has 2 MOSFET drive. The IL50 is not even close, and the 4. That's the much bigger brother. Alright, well, it looks like it boils down to a transistor somewhere. I'm not gonna keep just digging through all these different schematics and wasting time if I can't find it. I'm about out of options right now. Let's see. What is this guy? This is an RT12. Yeah, I have basically everything but the one I need. PSB subsonic. Never even heard of it, but maybe it'll help. Nope. Nope. Alright. Back to troubleshooting. Alright, you know what? Let me go take care of this dog, because she's just going to drive me nuts. Let her outside and give her a snack really quick. I'll be right back in a minute. Alright. So I think we have a possibly a shorted transistor. I can't quite confirm that yet, and I don't exactly know which one it is yet. But when I'm looking at these two pins, which I am going to pull up the one service manual that was kind of relevant. I think that was the IL61. It's the one we just looked at. And I'm just going to look at that section of the power supply. 500 watt power supply. I really need to label these by board number. It would make life way easier for me versus manufacturer and model, because there's a lot of carryover in between the different models. Alright, so it looks like that sensing circuit goes through a current limiting resistor, and then it drives a bipolar transistor, and that sends some sort of signal. But I don't think it's supposed to be 160 volts. 160 volts tells me that something is shorted. But there is a 1 mega ohm resistor in there, and that's probably what saved our life. I'm going to cycle the power on this thing a few more times. And I am going to put something in there to load that down. Just grab a cheap resistor. Start with 10K, something kind of high. Because I don't know what the heck it's going to do when I put this in there. Might pop something, or it might just cook the resistor. Hopefully it just cooks the resistor. So that goes between secondary minus and the output of that is bulk monitor. So where would that be referenced to when it was going to the board? Ground? I guess it would have to be. So pin 5, audio ground, and before I put that in there, let me just measure between the correct pins too. So I'm going to go between 0 volt and Bulk monitor. I got like 5 volts counting down. I limited, I have 0. -15. I'm still getting like 5 volts on there though. It doesn't seem right. Again, you know, like if I had the schematics for this, I'd have this problem probably solved already. But not having them. Power supply seems fairly warm for not having a load on it either. I'm going to have to look into that too. It could just be, you know, the heatsink's finally catching up and getting warm, but that seems a little weird too. And my voltage on CD plus and minus, why I'm about a volt off. I know that can fluctuate a little bit, you know, but generally it's usually more closer to 8. And this one, when I check it, I'm just getting millivolts. 0 volts on there and about 500 to 600 millivolts on the pin there, so it's definitely wrong. But I can't answer the why yet. Alright. So, the transistor that goes to that pin is the second one. So pin 2 of that should connect to a 1 meg resistor. Which would be this guy right here. Let's see if our resistor's bad. I know it's going to be good on this one because this one seems to be working. I just want to get a reading on it. I'm not going to get it from the top side. I have to go on the bottom. Make sure my leads are good. Alright. So we're looking at, it's not pin 2, it's pin 7. Pin 7 goes to this transistor. Pin 2 is this guy here. And it goes to this resistor right here. What is your value? Of course, there's capacitance in there, so it's going to count up forever. I don't know what cap I'm charging, but it should be around 1 meg. We counted up, and now it's counting down. God, I hate measuring things in circuit. It's such a pain. Try again. Switch to polarity. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes it don't. Other thing that helps is just shorten it out. If it is charging anything up, we can kind of kill it temporarily. So I'm waiting for this value to, I guess I can move the meter over in a second. It's just counting up the resistance on there because I'm charging a cap more than likely. Oh, now it's reading 2 meg. Maybe it is 2 meg. Let's check the transistor. I'm in ohms mode because I'm just looking for shorts. You know, obviously this is the good board, so it's, you know, there's not going to be any, but I want to see how this behaves so then I can kind of remember that and compare it to the other one. So now the resistance is counting down. It's extremely unreliable. Alright. Back out it comes. I cannot trust that this is working if it doesn't function similar to the other one. And I don't know why it was, first I don't know why I was getting those really high voltage readings. That's one thing. And second, I don't know if something is bad or blown or, so we gotta rule all that out before we kick it loose. This heatsink is still warm, so I'm gonna guess that it's just an anomaly, not an issue. Still, these like little intermittent problems are super annoying because, you know, I thought I was done and we fixed the issue and then things just start going haywire. That's electronics for you. Alright, power supply is out again. I'm just gonna stack it up in the mess. I do need my meter though, so this has to come back out. Alright, board, why are you being mean to me? I'm going to just check my caps, make sure I didn't screw one of those up. Check the polarities again real quick. That one's good. Good, 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 good. So the caps are all right. The resistors all look fine. Like nothing in here looks bad at all. It doesn't mean it's not bad, just right now it doesn't look bad. There's a ton of resistors in there. Packed in there like sardines. There's one little flake of glue, but that's not causing it. If it is, I would be super surprised. We'll get it out of there just in case. Alright. Cap, no blown caps. No resistors that look burnt. No resistors that look damaged. So we got to find out where our problem is. More than likely somewhere in this section of the board. But the problem is the why. Why is it doing this? and what made that randomly start happening. And the worst part is that little bit of a hiss that I hear, like it's gonna bother me. All right, let's check our resistor, see how that compares to the other board. It's behaving almost the same. So we're up into the 2 meg range, and again, measuring it in circuit really isn't telling you anything. But if it was bad, you would see it would be behaving poorly. This one seems to be behaving. And I can pull it out and check it, but you know, it's in the meg range. It doesn't look burnt, so it's probably not the resistor. I want to see what if this bipolar has any shorts on it. It does not appear to have any shorts. We can do a little diode check on it. So far it appears to be good. So we can compare that to this one. Just do a side by side. It's nice to have a spare board, it helps a lot. 652. And of course I can't see what the heck I'm doing. Let me get this light out of the way. .662, and on this guy we have 652. 2.0. And again, the reason that I want to have another board to compare it to is because we're measuring in circuit. So 2.3, 2.3. I mean, they're too close for the transistor to be a problem. And that's, you know, where that guy goes. Now there is a diode in here, or in that circuit, at least on the other schematic. That doesn't mean it is on this schematic. But we'll check that diode that's in here. There's only one diode that's even close. So we'll check him. Both forward and reverse. The diode appears to be good. Gee, I do not know at this point. I am moderately stumped. Could be a film cap issue with the Carly caps. We could take the Carly caps out, change those. I mean, it wouldn't hurt at this point, put it that way. Nothing else seems weird. That's the problem. I can't really think of anything else that, and the amp, like I said, the amp works. It's just that voltage I was reading on there, just something doesn't sit right with me. That I read full voltage on it, and I don't know how the circuit works, so you know, keep that in mind. What board is this? 640047. I'm gonna have to look for a schematic for this. Let's measure between these two pins again and power it up. See what we get. Now the bleed off resistor shorted on the primary side of the supply. Well, the issues I'm seeing are on the secondary supply. So it's not. I don't think it's related to that. And between this current limit pin on here and the bulk monitor, which is, I guess, to keep track of this cap, it's not reading the same as this board. Now, granted, they're two different boards. One's a Rev 0 and this is what, a Rev 3. They're extremely similar, but they are a little bit different. But this part of the board looks to be the same, and that's where we're checking right now. Actually, the whole secondary side looks to be the same. You know, they fixed a couple traces on there, like so you don't have to have this ceramic cap floating in the air. You know, so there's a couple little changes, but other than that, they're pretty dang similar. This dashboard did have some glue on it, but for the most part it's functioning, and you know the voltage was tracking, so that tells me that the dashboard is working. But what I don't know is why we were getting a little bit of hum. And I hate just blindly replacing parts. I really don't like doing that, because you're not solving the problem, then you're just basically, you know, blindly searching for it and risking damaging the board for not necessarily fixing the problem. I'm going to fire it back up again. Current limited. I'm going to stay current limited until I find the issue. So negative 15 looks good. Positive 15 is good. Let's see what else we're supposed to have on there. Should have a pin 6. There should be another negative voltage. We don't have that. I have -4 on the tracking signal. That's weird because there's no audio. Tracking signal is the audio one. I don't even know if this pinout I'm looking at is correct either. I'm just making assumptions, because it's similar. Let's see, I got 30 some volts on that. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little cowboy move here and put this 10K in there and see what happens. It might freak out, or it might just be like, meh, alright. I shouldn't be holding on to this, really. Let me get a pair of pliers. I don't want to get zapped, because that did show 160 volts a minute ago. I don't know what this is going to do, if anything. Might just piss off the supply. Alright, well that took it down to the millivolt range, with a little bit of loading on it. The resistor's not even getting hot. So maybe it is just some kind of phantom signal. But it jumps back. The the voltage jumping back up is what's throwing me for a loop there. You know, it's showing 6 volts, and it's all over the place too. It's not like it's a stable thing. I'm gonna hook it back up into the amp and turn off my soldering iron here. I'm gonna hook it back up into the amp and run it. Like I said, this thing was behaving kind of weird in the last video I made. It wasn't powering on. I wasn't getting good output voltage on there. It was missing, and then all of a sudden it just started working. So I don't know, maybe it could be a bad solder joint. I hope not. If I'm going to be tracing a bad solder joint, this thing's going to take a week to fix. Let's see, I just want to double check my voltage again here. See, so now I'm back up to 7.85 volts. So what the hell changed? Very random. Very, very random. What I might do is just put this back into the plate and fire it up and get some heat into it. Stress it out a little bit. See if it does anything weird. But I can't send it back if it's got noise on it. Like that's a big no-no. I'm not gonna screw it in this time. It's just gonna sit in here. So I can't push it too hard because I don't want it to get too hot. But this time I am gonna listen and see if I get any, you know, weirdness in the speaker. We're gonna stay current limited. It powers up, like it's on. I'm not in the speaker, am I? No, I'm in the silent speaker. That's no good. I need regular speaker. I gotta hear what's going on. If there's buzz going on in here, I gotta get rid of it. It very well could be a funky solder joint though. After my last one dealing with a cracked trace that you couldn't see. I wonder if I emailed Klipsch and said, hey, you know, this thing's not in production anymore. I'm trying to fix it. You know, can I get the schematics for this? Maybe they'd play nice for a change and release them. Alright, let's see what it sounds like. I'm still getting a hum. Well, I'm going to start unplugging things on my bench and seeing if that gets rid of the hum. Just don't know what could be causing that. My speakers are turned off. My can't turn the computer off, I'll lose the stream. It's got a very faint power supply hum. I wonder if I'm going to try the other power supply, which means I need my long RT ribbon. And I can switch back and forth between supplies. I'm going to try that. Let's see if I can get over here and find it on the dark shelf. I do have another power supply that would work in that unit too. It's a little bit smaller. I don't know if it's working right now though. I can clearly hear a hum on the speaker. I'm about 5 feet away from it right now. It's almost like a faint... Well, let's see if I can get it on a probe on my other scope. If I can get it to show up on the scope, maybe I'll show everyone what it looks like. It's definitely some sort of power supply ripple. So I have no input going into the speakers. Changing the volume doesn't really change it all that much. Even at mute, I still have it, so I don't think it's in the audio path here. I'm just going to grab my scope really quick and show everybody what it looks like. That's what I'm looking at on the speaker right now. There's some sort of noise getting in to the audio path somehow, which tells me it's probably power supply related. I'm gonna swap out supplies with my supply and see if it goes away. Then I can at least isolate it to this section of the amp, or this section, and then we'll go from there. But I gotta find my cable. I got one, but it's kind of short. It's kind of short. Well, I guess what I can do is just cut the zip tie and just walk it on over, but then my power supply cables will be too short. Maybe I'll just stick it into here, just stick it into the housing. I don't really care if mine looks pretty or not. It goes away when I kill the power. I'm like 99% sure that this power supply will work just fine in here. If it doesn't, I'll just buy the guy a new amp. How's that? If I blow it up, I'll buy him a new one. A new used one. Alright, that's a little weird. Alright, so before I do that, I gotta measure this connector looks like it's on here backwards. Can't really make heads or tails of that, so we're gonna try it first. Because it looks like somebody was definitely messing around with this. And I don't know what the status of the supply is. Somebody just sent this to me. It was in their scrap pile, and they said, hey, you want this? And I said, absolutely. Give it to me. I will make it do something. Let's see if I can do a quick fix on that. Of course, I don't have any tape handy. Nothing's ever where I need it to be. I need an assistant. A new lab, more coffee. One of the new caps could be bad. It's very highly unlikely. But it could be. That would be, one of the last things I would suspect. I'm going to start with this power supply, though. I want to see what's going on with this thing. I don't think it's the power supply, but you never know. These things sometimes have a mind of their own. So the connector on here looked like it was installed backwards. I'm just going to try and verify that. And then pull it out and fix it so I don't blow up anything. Yeah, and it is installed backwards. So we gotta fix that. Might not be installed backwards for whatever it was hooked up to at the time, but it's installed backwards for putting it in this plate. Oh, come on, don't fight me. The plug. There we go. So on this one, this connector faces one way, and on this one, it faces the other way. It looks like it's been tampered with. Which is kind of making me think that's why this amp was sent to me, because they unplugged this and it pulled the header off. Then they put the header back on, but they put it on upside down, and then they blew up their amp, and they said, well, this thing's garbage. Just a guess. I'm not, I can't confirm that, but it seems very plausible. And it doesn't match the silk screen on the board, so that tells me something's a little weird with it too. Somebody could have even had this thing removed off of the actual plate, like completely desoldered it. I don't know. I don't know what the history of this is, but I'm going to put it on so it matches the application that I need. And there's like gouge marks on there too, so it looks like somebody did pop that off of there. I'm going to try and carefully wiggle it back on. And you want to be careful doing this, because what's going to happen is you're going to squeeze it and it's going to come down, and then the pins are going to go right through your finger. There we go. And that has happened to me before, and it hurts like freaking hell. So, pro tip, don't drive the pins through your finger. Alright, so we put the JST connector on. I'm kind of wondering if that's why I measured different voltages though, because I had the connector backwards. I can't confirm that. We're gonna have to repower it up and see what's going on. So I'll hook the main up, but I'm not gonna hook up the auxiliary just yet. Like I said, I want to do everything I can to protect this board. So even if that means I gotta do a little more messing around just to get some measurements in that, I'm gonna do it. Just so I don't blow anything up. Alright, here we go. Let's see, we should have plus 15, yes. Minus 15, yes. Now I got 3.98 over there. But I'm still not getting... Well, now I'm getting 9 volts. So maybe I did have that because that connector was backwards. I wasn't getting a good reading on it. Alright. Oh, like I said, let's see what happens. Come on. Alright. I'm looking to see if I have that sound. If I have that sound, it's something related to my power in the house. I do got a bunch of stuff running upstairs that has cheap power supplies in it, so until I can get that out of there, maybe that's the source of my noise. I don't know. This will kind of verify that, though. So let's see what happens. Let's put anti-shorting material down. So I'm getting that same little bit of a hum. I mean, it's so faint. But it shows up on the scope, but I mean, it's so faint. I'm gonna say it's gotta be line noise. Actually, so here's an interesting thing. I'm listening. When the backlight goes out on here, the sound goes away. So no, there's no hum anymore. Now there's hum. Whatever's driving this backlight is causing the hum. Well, I know I said I wasn't going to do it, but I think maybe I will recap this board. We're going to be freaking stupid careful on it. I think you can control backlight intensity on here. Display brightness. There it is. I wonder if it's actually this board though too. I've never seen that before. Weird. Totally weird. Well, hey, I guess that's why people come and watch the channel, right? All these weird things that you can figure out and learn, because nobody else is gonna teach anybody this stuff. I'm gonna change out the controller board on that. I have another one. I have a couple more of these actually. But I think that's one of the ones that I repaired recently because I blew it up. So I'm going to try a different one and see if that solves the issue. So I got a spare here. I know one of these I totally destroyed and I had to do some rework on it. Yeah, and this is the replacement screen because it's got all the labels and stuff on the top of it. So let's swap this out just to see if it's just a cheap Chinese screen that's causing that. I think I got that screen on like yeah, I think I got that. It's an Amazon screen. This one is not lighting up. So this is probably my blown one. Or my other blown one. Try again. Not getting any hum, but I'm not getting any display either. That guy might be bad. I got one more of these, I think, somewhere. Definitely starts to hum when I turn the backlight on this screen on. I really don't want to recap that board. This guy's shot. I gotta put a note on him. Fix me. Please fix me. Alright. Let's go digging. I gotta find one more of these screens. I know I got one, I just don't know where. I gotta vet this out and make sure it's something silly. But I do know that I have some sort of line noise issue in my house right now. And I do believe it's related to two 1800 watt power supplies that I'm running. That are cheap Chinese power supplies. But I didn't really have much of a choice on that because I wasn't going to spend $500 for a power supply. There's no freaking way. Especially when I can buy 4 cheap ones for that. Alright, give me a second. I'm going to look for that display. And we will continue. But at least we know what the issue is now. Alright, here is my somewhat janky rework display. Got parts everywhere. I gotta clean up. Jeez. So this is a repaired display. I think the other one was a failed repair, but that's okay. So I remember there's something you had to do in there. I think it was like a resistor change, or I had to change something in order to make this work with a different display. And I socketed it because if I do blow it up again, then I can just switch it out real easy. Well, let's see if this one should work, I think. Yeah. It's a little dirty, but it works. See if I can get the backlight to come on. So same thing, I'm still getting hum. Hum's gone. Hum. So it's directly related to the backlight. So at least we know what the source of the problem is. That'll allow me to at least continue on with figuring out how to solve that. I think what I'm going to end up doing, even though I really don't want to, is I'm going to end up recapping this board. See if that makes that problem go away. If not, then I don't know if it can be solved. It might just be something that's always there and I just never really paid attention to it. It still could be something related to the power in my house. I don't know, but either way, it's yeah, I can't unplug the 1800 watt supplies because I'm running a crypto rig on there, and I don't want to take that down. It's not going to be here much longer. It goes in an office where I don't have to pay for power, but right now there's remodeling going on, so I can't. It's got to be here. So I have a potential noisy power for a couple more weeks, and then that'll go away. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I will shut that down. I do have to do a little bit of maintenance on it anyways. Well, yeah, this is gonna bother. You know what? I think I will. I'm gonna shut that down just while I'm testing this and see if it goes away. Give me a minute. All right. I gotta replace a fan in there anyway, so it's a good time to do a test and yeah, shut that down. Um, I'm not gonna recap this board tonight anyways because it's kind of late. So let's see what that does to the sound. I'm curious now. It's doing it with both supplies, so it's either something uh, on. Well, I don't think it'll be on the amp board because the 15 volt supplies are on the main. So it's got to be either something on here or it's just something that is inherent to this specific unit. Let's see here. Really hard to read when you don't have backlight. Nope. Still getting that nasty buzz and hum. It's weird because at the third brightness it's the worst. So what I will probably do is I'll recap this board, the input board, and see if it cleans it up. I mean, there's some switching supplies on here, so that could be putting noise in there. But it's only when the display is turned on. Perfectly clean and clear, noise. Louder, loudest. Full brightness, it goes down a little bit. But I get the loudest buzz right there. Oh well, weird issue. I don't quite know how to solve that yet, but we're going to take it to this board and well, that's interesting. So the display doesn't always stay on. It like auto dims. Power always on. Demo keypad. I thought the backlight always stayed on. Well, maybe it's not really an issue then. The backlight turns itself off. Just a very, very weird issue that I've never noticed before. Perfectly silent right now with the screen being off. Maybe I'm gonna email the owner and tell him what I found, and ask him if he's noticed that before, because it the screen automatically goes off. So if I let that sit for a minute, the backlight shuts off and the humming goes away. It's perfectly silent now. No noise at all. So during normal operation, the backlight's not going to be on, only when an adjustment's made. It's such a faint hum. I'm gonna ask. I'll ask the owner what he wants to do. If he wants me to risk recapping this board, I'll do it. I've done it before. You know, it can be done. You just got to be really careful. I'll see what he says. If he says, yeah, go ahead and recap it and see what happens, we'll do it. If he says, I'm okay with the hum when I'm changing the settings, then I'll leave it alone. But other than that, I think it's working as it should. Everything else seems to check out. The power supply seemed to match. The hum is not related to the power supply. So I think we're in pretty good shape. And just for the heck of it, I'm gonna shut this thing off. I want to see what caps this guy is. So yeah, this is all those forever caps that are on there. Like I said, those are generally pretty good caps. Connector in there's a little dirty, which is kind of weird. There are two. Yeah, tell you what, I'm gonna replace the power caps on here. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. It'd be nice to get this thing done tonight. Screw it. Like I said, if I damage it, I'll just replace whatever gets damaged. I want to know if this stops the hum. I have to know. So I'm going to leave the audio caps alone, which is most of these, but anywhere where it's hooked into a power supply, I'm going to change. So that's going to be these two here, these. Let's see, this guy. And these two. we got a voltage regulator here, I believe. These are on the 15 volts. This is a little boost converter over here, which I believe is what controls the power to the DSP. These guys up here, I don't know what they do. Those are power for something. Basically anywhere where there's a fat trace is power. So I got fat trace here, fat trace here, fat trace there, fat trace there, fat trace on that little guy down there, and these two over here. And all the skinny traces are audio. Not always, but at least on this board that's how it is. And this monster up here's got a fat trace on the top, but that's for this switch supply. It's probably just this one cap right there. I bet you we could just replace the one and it'll go away, but let's I don't know, let's just freaking do it. If I break it, I'll buy it. I think I might change soldering tips on this. Just because clearing these small holes is going to be a problem. I'm already putting more heat in there than I'd like to be. And my solder sucker's clogged, of course. Come on, give me a break on this thing. Let's get the camera where we can see what I'm doing here. So I can tell these are going to just be an absolute nightmare to switch out. There's huge ground planes. You just gotta murder them with heat to get through to those planes. Shit. Definitely don't like putting that much heat into a board. I'm going to switch to my smaller tip that has a little bit more control. This guy here. And it gets a little bit hotter. So not something I generally want to do is, you know, mess around with the caps on this board, but I have to know if this is a cap issue or if it's just some other sort of goofy issue that I just don't understand. So I'm taking the risk for the sake of the video to determine what the issue is. And I'm just going to replace a handful of caps that appear to be in the power supply section. And I'm doing that to minimize the risk of any damage to this board. But that will tell if it's cap related. And if it is a cap related issue, then I may just go ahead and do the rest of them. Probably should look at these values too before I pull them out, because I want to get their counterparts put right back in. So, where's our first guy at? It's probably going to be 100 at 25, and what's this guy? Hopefully the same. $100 at 25. Of course, they don't have them marked, but square pads are going to be positive on this. So we'll do the 2 plus minus 15s. I'm going to tack all these in place, then trim the leads, and then I'm going to over solder them again with the higher heat, because some of these ground planes are not going to solder nicely. So we'll use the big boy to come back and make them look nice. Alright, this is the power supply cap here. The better tip definitely makes it a little easier to work on. Still struggling to clear these holes though, even with the good tip. I'm pretty sure this is a 4-layer board, so that's why the issues are there. So every one of these solder joints is going to be cold. This is power here. $100 at 25. If you don't have a vacuum desoldering iron, I would not touch these caps. You have been warned. Alright, let's get our big boy here. I want to measure this 470. I'm gonna take a second to see what he reads. So these forever caps are usually good, but I want to see that they're good. Yeah, it's a good cap. Ain't that one, but it's out already, so we're gonna put a new one in. 470 at how many volts here? 470 at 25. Once it comes out, it's out. I have a few different sizes of 470s, so I want to make sure I put the right body size in there if I can. Excuse my head too, I need the light to see what I'm doing here. I need one that has the correct lead spacing. And hopefully I'm not out of them, because I hate putting caps back in. That's even worse than taking them out, putting a used cap back in. But, you know, for the sake of my luck that I usually have, I will probably have to do it. Let's see, there's 470 at 16. Of course I don't have one. Let's see if I have one in a higher voltage. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. There it is. There it is. A little short, squatty, chunky. Do have it. Alright, good. So far, so good. Doesn't seem to be a bad cap, unfortunately. It's not really the time or the caps that go into this either, you know, like I don't care about putting the parts in. It's just I have a fear of damaging this board. It's just a sensitive board. It requires an absolute ton of heat to get the capacitors out. Let's see, 10 microfarad at 16. That means this guy's got to be the same. Jeez, this one's like glued to the... Yep, it is glued to the board. Damn it. Actually glued to the board. With conformal coating. At 16. Alright, let's put those two in. Which one is the positive? Shit. You definitely get a used Weller on eBay, or a used Heiko if you can get one. I got the pistol grip, but I can't find the base station that's got the sucker built into it. Even if you get a large pistol grip, you can get these pretty cheap. Oh boy. If you want to start out cheap, get one of these on Amazon. This one's an actual Heiko 808, but you can get a remake 808, and you can get different size tips for them. But this is a good place to start. It's cheap, it's handheld, and it's definitely good enough to get you up and running. And then, you know, as you progress on more and more, then you can step up into the dedicated, like Weller Heiko. I haven't gotten the Heiko yet. I want one, but Heiko, Hacko, whatever the heck they're called. But I got a good deal on eBay on the pistol grip, but it had the base that requires an air compressor. So I did not end up using that because I don't feel like firing up my air compressor every time I want to desolder something. So I'm looking for the little positive marking on here, and I found it. Just buried under this conformal coating. But positive is on the top side. I'm going to keep scraping that off just to flatten it out a little bit. Fingernail only, no tools on here. But one of these days, I'll eventually splurge and get the better station. And the only reason I would is because it's got 2 ports on it, so I can run my tweezers and the solder sucker off the same machine. And for my iron, I don't even know what these are. A 2027 70 watt handheld, and then a FP101 for the base. I think I paid $24 for the base used on eBay, and I've used it for years, and it's awesome. You can still find them on eBay dirt cheap. Nobody wants them. I don't know why, because they don't list the temperature. They don't have any of the digital controls on them. But I love this iron. Takes all the tips, takes the micro tips if you have the wand for it. It's a good deal. So you don't need super expensive stuff, but I did splurge on the Weller solder sucker, the WRS1002, but I got a good deal on eBay. I think I paid $250 for it, which, you know, it's expensive, but that same unit, should I put this in upside down? I sure as hope not. No, we're good. It's you know, it's a decent expense, but it isn't terrible, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, if buying stuff like that new and, you know, you're looking at a small fortune, that I would not do. Let's see, where does this guy go? This is a power supply cap. The thing I like about the Weller, the tips are fairly cheap though. The Heiko tips are much more expensive. So you got to keep that in mind too. And these tips last a long time. I don't know how the Heiko ones will end up working out, but I do like the little mini pistol grip better than the wand. 2.2 microfarad, 16 volts. There is no 16, so we're going to 50. 2.2, 50 volts. Yeah, even with good tools, like this board still terrifies me to work on. The only reason is because I don't have a schematic. Like, there's a lot of surface mount parts on here, so if you tear a through hole out, you know, you might be able to catch that tracer pad, you know, somewhere on one of these capacitors or resistors over in here, but if you can't, you know, map that out, if I don't have any way to figure out what the heck's going on with that, I'm dead in the water. This guy here, this is actually a little power supply, so that's power supply for the memory chip. It's either memory or RAM, one of the two. This guy here is going to get changed. That's a power cap. I'm sure there's more. I don't know. I'm going to end up recapping this whole board probably. This is probably going to be 22 again at 16 volts. 2.2, yep. We're going 2.2 to 50. I do not stock 16 volt 2.2s. They're too hard to find. And the 50 volts are the same size as the 16s. Alright, so I think I have 1, 2, 3 more known power supply caps. Better way to do this probably would have been to just do it one at a time, but I don't know, I'm kind of impatient at the moment. I just want to rip through this. This guy here is power. Yeah, you know, like this setup is great. I could just put a new tip in. I got a whole bunch of different ones. I have genuine tips and knockoff tips, and a whole bunch of different sizes and shapes. And this whole setup, I think I have less than $100 in that whole setup. Can't beat it. And I've been using. That's got to be 15 years I've been using that already. It doesn't die. It's a workhorse. I've left it on overnight. I mean, that thing's been abused. And it just chugs away. It's a really good soldering station. Doesn't have all the fancy things like temperature control or any of that, but I could care less. It works. It works good. Let's see. 10 microfarad, 16 volts. I do have those in 16. So the question is after I recap these power caps, is this going to fix the hum? I'm going to say probably not. But so far so good. This board's been cooperating. Those look like all audio paths, so we got two more. Two more that I know are on power supply lines. What is this one? 10 at 16. That means this buddy's going to be 10 at 16. Well, by a miracle we made it and we didn't tear any of the pads off. 10 at 16. I need two more. Make sure our polarities are all correct. I hope they all are. double check these. Positive is down, positive is up. So there's two different voltages coming out of that guy. So after this, I'm going to trim the leads, then I'm going to go over all these again with the big iron. I'm just not going to suck, I'm just going to heat it to flow these all back down. Because I'd say almost all these joints are cold at this point. I want nicely formed fillets on all of these, and I want to make sure they're soldered through the board. And I mean, you can just see by just looking at them. I mean, you won't be able to see it on the camera, but these are ugly, ugly solder joints. They're like lumpy, they're not wetted in, they're like kind of humped up, so that's a telltale sign that you're not getting enough heat into the joint when it doesn't flow and give you a nice fillet. So to remedy that, we will just hit it with the solder sucker with the fat tip. Just give it like a little swirl around there. And we're just doing this to make sure that the joints are fully wetted in. I mean, it's an extra step, and yeah, it kind of sucks, but I don't want cold solder joints. Cold solder joints are almost as bad as broken traces. When you got really big ground planes that just kind of just destroy the heat in your iron, you want to you know, go over the top of the joints and make sure you just get these things really good and washed in, especially on the ground planes. Thousand times better. And it only took, what, 30 seconds to do. I am going to clean these up a little bit. There are some solder boogers on there, so I want to make sure I get all those off, clean off a little bit of the residue. That way I don't have to worry about any shorts or anything, so. To my knowledge, that's all the power supply caps. The ones below, I believe, are in the audio path, or maybe they're filters for the op amps. We're going to leave those for now and just do a rough test and see if that LED noise goes away. There's no guarantees that it will. I'm quite I mean, the recap on this went better than it has in the past, put it that way. Alright, cleaned up. Fairly decent, so let's get all these out of the way there. I will grab a couple of those and randomly check them, but all of these appear to be in the audio path. This group from here over. There might be a couple of them that go to this chip here, and this is the digital volume control chip. It's basically a SPI controlled potentiometer. So there might be a couple that we missed in the power section. I'd have to pull the data sheet up and look at that, and I don't know, it's not really worth messing around with right now. I don't see any power traces, going directly to that. That doesn't mean that they're not, but nothing is jumping out at me right now saying, hey, I'm a power capacitor and need to be changed. So I'm going to leave it at that for now and see where we stand on this noise issue. And it's getting pretty late. It's after 2 now, so I don't want to put too much more time into this tonight. Let's oh, if it's a cracked solder joint, I'll just smash the amp and send him a sunfire. I'm not dealing with broken traces or bad solder joints. Not after 4 hours on one broken little trace. I mean, I learned a lot in that video myself, but that was extremely frustrating. So the noise is there, but it's reduced by about a factor of 5. So doing the caps definitely made a difference. I can still hear it. My furnace is on right now, so it's kind of making a little bit of noise. Well, I'm gonna say that's probably good. Let's see what these are. I might as well just finish recapping it. What's 10 more small caps. It's not gonna make a difference. At least I don't think it is. But I've gone this far. I might as well just replace the last few and be done with it. Then this thing will have a full recap, and it'll be good to go. But I'm not going to finish it tonight. Alright, so it's already after 2, so I know the amp works. I know it makes good sound. I know the sine wave coming out of it looks good. The voltage on the output, I believe, is normal. I think the problem that I was running into was the connector pins were flipped on the one. I don't know why that was done. Somebody screwed something up there. But I've never put this into an amp before, so that could be part of the reason why I never really needed to pay attention to that or take a look at it. This is just the whole purpose for this plate was so that I could test my replacement power supply boards or existing boards if I pull them out. So I just keep this on the shelf, and if I'm having problems with the power supply, I can plug the control board in there, and either yes it starts or no it don't. If it doesn't, I try to fix it. If I can't fix it, then I can build a replacement board up for them. So I'm gonna power down for now. I probably won't make the rest of the video, showing me just replacing these last few caps on here. It's gonna be, pretty straightforward. We know that, we fixed the power supply in the first section. We finished the recap on that, half recap on this. We found out that the little bit of noise is caused by the backlight on the LCD. Recapping the power supply section of this board did seem to help, but the noise is still present, so I'll do the rest of the recap, and then I'll do a comparison, and I'll put that comparison in the comments below. I don't really think it's going to matter, but if it does, I'll definitely let everybody know, that it helped the problem or resolved the problem. But as soon as the backlight turns off, it's crystal clear, like there's no hum, no sound. So I'm guessing that, to control the brightness, they're switching a pin on and off, and that whatever frequency they're switching that light at is causing some noise in the circuit somewhere. So I'm guessing it's the microprocessor that's doing that. Um, so maybe it's just close to another sensitive pin on there, and it's just picking up that switching noise, and that might be something that just can't be controlled. But it's not my house power. It's not anything related to the power supply. Both power supplies are acting exactly the same. So yeah, I'll finish recapping this and let everybody know what the end results are, and then I'm going to contact the owner and get this thing the heck out of here and back into his listening room. So it's definitely another one saved. It's not going to end up in the garbage or in a landfill, at least not for a few more years. Um, so we'll leave it at that. I'm going to call it a night, get some sleep, and I'll be back this weekend. Jeez, I got so many amps. Yeah, I got plenty to do. So I'll be back this weekend. We're gonna go through two more. I got one that's kind of near and dear to me. Guy that was on the waiting list, and um, the sub was in his grandparents' house, and it's been passed on to him. And I grew up with my grandparents. My grandfather's still alive, 98 years old. So um, when people give me a good backstory like that, it makes me want to help them even more. So I want to definitely make sure I get that up and running, and that's going to be this weekend. So we'll dig through the mess. I mean, you can see the pile of boxes here. It keeps growing and growing and growing. I do got to do a little cleaning up though. It's starting to get to be kind of chaos. But we'll see. Hopefully see you guys sometime this weekend. So like and subscribe if you haven't done that yet, and I will catch up with everyone on the next repair. Thanks for tuning in.